when I speak to someone who is anti-God, spiritually bankrupt, and I think of something like step 2, and I remember the visceral reaction, right? Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Here's how I interpreted that.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
Hi, I'm Shane.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a new episode dropping every Monday and Thursday. Please come check it out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
Dr. Harte, welcome to the Hopeaholics Podcast.
Thank you.
We are live.
We are live.
Yeah,
Oh, snuck up on us.
yeah, snuck up on you. Look at that. 21 seconds live and in the
I was just reading her card here. I really like the back. Strong Harte.
Strong Heart.
Let's actually, I want to go knock it out with the quote.
Yeah, I was about to do that.
Only when we are brave
You can
enough
take
to
over.
embrace the dark, we will know the infinite power of our light. Amen.
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 Let's see what we got going on here. Look, we got
gifts.
We got gifts. There's a heart on the bag.
And it's pink.
Obviously,
And it's pink. So
Dr.
everybody
Harte
knows.
is here. Look at this book. You can't judge a book by the cover, but this is a good cover.
Thank you. I love that cover.
Me too. I like the colors.
nice color, yeah.
It's to be honest with you, the blue is like my favorite blue.
That's a good blue. I agree. And
Yeah.
I like the lavender or whatever that pinky color is.
It's definitely. I don't think it's
Or
lavender, but
pinkish or pomegranate.
pomegranate
That's
is
a good way to describe
Pomegranate.
it.
pomegranate.
Actually, I love that you're bringing up this color because when I hit spiritual rock bottom, which wasn't until I was 5 years in recovery, one of the first things that my intuition told me was that my favorite color was blue. And I didn't know that. When I got married, I had to pick the color of things, and I picked purple arbitrarily because I had no idea who I was. And turns out it's this color blue.
Wow.
It's one of the first things she told me. It's
Who?
my brand
Who told
color,
you?
my intuition.
Oh, okay.
She's my homie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shane, are you gonna eat the chocolate? I guess so.
Yes. I love it.
Let's get rolling, man.
In there,
let's,
you guys.
Let's get
in
rolling.
that gift bag.
Let's get rolling.
See that chocolate.
Well, Gary Deli is a pretty nice chocolate. And Shane stuff. See, Shane always asks our first question of the podcast
Just to have a mouthful of food.
because we like to hit hard
Yeah.
right
love
from the
that.
beginning.
So do I. Let's go.
And Shane came up with the idea, and it's been working actually
has been.
really,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
really
Really good.
well.
You're a doctor. You're put together. Do you know what I mean? You're a public speaker. What was that day that turned you into this? What was the day that broke you and you became that butterfly?
March 13th, 2022, when my big sister Jessica died of a drug overdose. Now, I had no idea at the time that I was going to write a book and set out to speak on stages and refuse to recover in silence. But that was 100% the catalyst, because up until that moment, my sober spiritual life was on a parallel track to my clinical life. And I had this private practice where I was treating whole person, whole body, cash-based, which was extremely meaningful, that I could break out of the healthcare system that we know is very, very broken and create a new way for patients to actually get better. And at the same time, the more sobriety I gathered, the more I realized that these ordinary folks who were not substance abusers, who were high net worth, were suffering much like the addict was too, in emotional cycles of dysfunction, like chronic people pleasing,
For sure.
hyperproductivity, perfectionism, and obsession with the beauty and body standard. And it bothered me. It was like an itch that I couldn't scratch. But I'm like, who am I to coach them spiritually? You know, where do I get off? And when my sister died, I don't remember this at all. I was with my husband in the Austin airport when I found out. So I was just wailing on the floor and had to get back on the plane to LA to pack a bag to go back on a plane to New Jersey and handle everything. And he said that I turned to him on the plane and said, I'm writing a fucking book. So I guess I knew a book was in me. And in that moment, I knew the book had to address the spiritual side of health and wellness. But I had no idea what the book was going to become and where it was going to take me. And I have never been more dialed in to my purpose than I am today.
My kind of girl.
It's amazing. You know, I want to just, because I went to a thing last night. It was a discussion group and a panel group on cancer. And it said the same thing you're doing. That spiritual side of it. So they had 10 steps to get better. 8 of them were spiritual. 2 of them were physical, exercise, and one other one I can't remember, but it was a lot of prayer, meditation, forgiveness, acceptance. The forgiveness one was a big one, personal forgiveness, because apparently holding on to that resentment kills you. So I really learned a lot, and you touching on this right now really sparked that inside of me.
Well, let's go there because this is the essence of my message.
Yeah.
You know, in 12-step, which I love 12-step,
Yeah.
but I fought the program
Right, yeah.
tooth and nail. I was a person who wore perfectionism like a noose around my neck. And when I came into the rooms, everyone said, you got to get down with God. But I grew up in a house where if you believe in God, you're an absolute fool. And the only person you can count on is yourself. And I'd become so good at perfecting everything on the outside. I had a highly controlled world. And that is the way that I felt safe in my house, therefore outside in the big, scary world. So when AA was like, yeah, no, you need to unwind that entire identity and get down with God, I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I could check all the boxes. I was a doctor. I had a good body. I had a boyfriend. I was about to start a career. Like, why? I just have this little drug and alcohol problem. If you could just help me fix, I'd really appreciate it. And so I ran on that in early recovery. I worked the steps the best that I could. I made amends to everybody else except myself. And then I was in this marital crisis because I married the guy who I cheated on in my active addiction. We were very young when we met. We stayed together. We got engaged. We didn't do the healing work and the therapy work. And everything bled into the early years of our marriage. And he started pulling away. And as he did, because I know now he was my higher power, I was nothing without his love for me. I completely came undone. And I couch surfed for months and months and months until a sober girlfriend finally said, you cannot live like this. You are going to die living like this. You got to get your own place and heal. And so that was terrifying to me. And that, you know, I overdosed on cocaine the night I got accepted into my doctoral program. And it would still take me 1.5 years to start my sobriety journey. Why wasn't that rock bottom? This was rock bottom. Rock bottom's not physical, it's spiritual, right? It's a place where you don't want to die, but you can no longer go on living the way you've been living. And that is where I was at. Because I had gotten through my life really successfully up until that point by controlling the people, places, and things around me. And now I couldn't. And I have evidence of how utterly I was feeling and how unmanageable it became. So this woman who I heard speak, who had killed somebody in a car wreck, and she seemed so happy, who was in multiple 12-step programs, so Al-Anon, AA, and all kinds of things, right? She was like, what if we do the steps on your marriage? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, I think you know you're powerless over drugs and alcohol. So what if we look at powerlessness around your husband, that you cheated on him, that you guys didn't do the work before you got married, showing up now, over whether or not he's cheating on you, because you think he is, but you're not really sure and he's denying it, and over the future of the relationship. And when you try to exert power over him and any other person, place, thing, or situation, by the way, your life becomes unmanageable. Unmanageability was really clear at that point. It wasn't before then in my behaviors. And so we trudge through the steps and we get to the 9th step. Now here I am, 5 years sober. I had made so many amends, especially to my husband who I had hurt. And she said, have you ever made an amends to yourself? I was like, what? I didn't even know that was an option. I didn't even know that was an option. And why does this matter? This woman had to give me permission. That is the weight under which I was living with self-ridicule. Someone else needed to give me permission that I could consider a life where, even though I had done all these things to this man, that I actually deserved a loving and fulfilling marriage. And so the work really had just begun, because now I had to double down on elevating my consciousness. Mm-hmm. Every second of the day, when I heard my critical voice show up and say, this is what you fucking get for what you did, Sam. And say, wait a second. If I keep saying that, I'm casting a vote for the type of person who doesn't forgive themselves. And if I want to cast a vote for someone who does, what would I say instead? And then I had to dream that up. Not some random bullshit positive affirmation that I read on the internet, but something that came from me, that was true to me, that felt safe in my nervous system. And so I practiced. And this is the essence of breaking the circuit, right? I was in a circuitry of perfecting the world around me, and it collapsed, and pain was the circuit breaker. So I woke up, and now I had a new way to see these steps. And the miracle of doing that work is that my critical voice could take a seat on the side of the boardroom table instead of in the seat of CEO.
The head of the table.
Which is where she was sitting.
Yeah.
And my intuitive self showed up.
Yes, that's the word they used last night.
And this is the whisper of God to me.
Yes.
From this day all the way since then. And one of the first things she told me was, hey, by the way, you're probably going to be in this apartment for a while in this separation, and it's unfurnished. So you got to go get some furniture. And that color blue right there really makes you feel good. Makes you feel energized and soothed. Go get some of that color. And that was the beginning of the most important relationship of my life.
With yourself.
What's funny to me is your first time through the steps. No, I'm gonna talk about me. My first time through the steps. And I got to the amends step. You know, we just become willing, right? And we make the list, right? And then we sit down with our sponsor. And I sat down with my sponsor. I had my list of amends, and I sat down with my sponsor and had everybody on there. And he goes, "You forgot somebody." And I said, "Who?" I said, "I got everybody on there. Everybody is on my list." He said, "There's one person on there that's not on your list, and it's the most important, and it should be on the top. It should be your number one amends." He says, "Yourself."
That's a good sponsor.
I think your sponsor just your first sponsor just missed the mark, and that's okay, because it for whatever reason, you know, God's in charge, right? You needed to go through whatever you went through to get to wherever you were when you were ready, and then that was revealed to you. Because maybe you weren't ready the first time. Maybe you weren't ready at that step the first time, and at this point when you were looking at, because there's only one step in Alcoholics Anonymous that has anything to do with drugs and alcohol. And that's step one. Everything after that. But in any world, you can replace that word alcohol with whatever it is.
Yep.
Like you did.
Yep.
The second time through. You replaced it with your marriage.
Work.
Your husband.
Outer layer.
All of that. The steps are the one, to me, the steps are one of the most beautiful things. And if the world could just do the steps, because it's the inner work. For me, it was like I fought the steps like you, in a different way though, because I always believed in God, and I had no problem with steps 1, 2, and 3. I had real problems with steps. I didn't have a problem with step 4. Everybody's like, "Oh, step 4 is so scary." Yeah. I had a problem with step 5, because I had to admit to you, to God. I had to admit to myself, to God, and to another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. And for me, that was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. A lot of people have other things, but you know, I think that that step 9 is at the end of the day, really truly the most rewarding step, because that's where a lot of people have their spiritual awakening, you know, because the 10th step after that was just a daily inventory. And then you're at 11. You're basically go from 9 to 11, right? Because you start doing your daily inventory right after that. But I was like telling Natalie yesterday on our drive, I was like, man, I still have some people on my list. I just don't know where they are. But so instead of being able to, you know, I make daily amends for that until they're revealed to me. I know who they are. I just have no idea where they are. So I make those other kind of amends, like not repeating that same behavior.
Yeah, you stay in living amends.
It's funny that you say what you said about the steps. So when I was writing my book, I just started writing the stories of my life because losing my sister was sort of the final thing where I'm like, this is enough already.
Yeah.
And I have so many big lessons that I constantly am being asked to learn. And I thought, let me just get it out and see what this becomes. And as it was clear to me that I wanted it to be prescriptive in some way, I have this doctor in front of my name. And even though I treat the body, I was noticing all that stuff in my clinic, and I'm thinking about the nervous system, and I'm thinking about recovery. And I'm like, okay, if I want to help as many people as possible, what helped me? And it was when I used the steps in this more modern, trauma-informed way. I'm like, that's what this book is going to be. I want to be the girl who 12-stepped the world.
Totally.
Not just addicts. Every one of us talks about it. Everybody needs these steps. Well, who's doing something about it?
Yeah.
You guys are. You guys are recovering out loud.
Yeah.
Right?
We recover out loud for the same reason that you do. You know that, right? 9/11 of 2022 is our
I do know.
is our date. I mean, I forced him into it. He didn't really have a choice. And then she showed up in our
God
lives.
brought me here to live in my purpose.
Yeah.
I don't take it lightly.
And it's all because of
Like,
9/11 of 2022. It's a rough day, man, and it, you know, it's the day that, like, I've always like been in recovery, and I've always worked in treatment. So for me, it was like, it wasn't really a big deal, but I was never going to do this. I was never going to get on do a podcast. It wasn't even a thought. It just wasn't. And then God came to me and he was like, I want you to start a podcast and offer hope to, it was originally like to offer hope to the families that are hurting. And as it started being more revealed, it's to offer hope to the people that are still suffering. And it's like everybody's suffering.
Totally. And we always say it on here too, is like the 12 steps is like, yeah, sure, of course we talk to the addict and the alcoholic that's either struggling or going through it, because if you're not diligent, you know, our disease is right there. So you have to stay on top of it every single day. But what I love so much about your message and what you're doing is like everyone can benefit from a 12 step or whatever type of inner work, because everyone struggles. We just happen to have a substance abuse problem or obviously a drinking problem, and so it just catapults us into a whole nother element as opposed to like essentially like the normie, but theirs trickles into just as dysfunctional and lack of self-worth to fulfilling their truest potential, what I believe God has put into all of us, regardless of what that actually looks like, because it's going to look like different for each individual. It's just finding that. And everybody, I think, is seeking. They use the word. That's why I love the words that you chose to put on your book are beautiful, because I don't really like the word happy because it's such a fleeting feeling. And everybody's searching for happiness. It's like, I just have never really liked that, because that to me is just, no, you're seeking like peace of mind, joy, the resilience. Like as human beings, that's how we're built. We're savages. I mean, go back in history, like how a human survives. Like we have it all in us. Everybody, I think, has like an inner dog in them. It's just you need to be able to pull it out. And then, of course, I mean, you have hope. That's what all you need is that little glimmer, which is obviously hope is in the title of this podcast. It's like everybody just needs that little glimmer of something to hold on to. and to hang in there, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because when you're going through the darkness, you don't see the light, but it's coming.
I want to ask you something. You spoke about intuition a little while ago and how that's taken over your thought process. I'm reading your quote here, and what I'm kind of learning is darkness is coming no matter what. 4 to 10 people are going to suffer some kind of major illness, whether it's cancer or something else in their life. 3 out of 10 are alcoholics or addicts. You're already at 7 out of 10. You're leaving 3 maybe going to skate by without getting into real darkness. So I guess my question is, when you've taken, with this intuition's taken over for you, how is that helping your life today? And how do we be more proactive and not wait till the darkness comes? How do we get into today?
So, you know, they say resentment is the number one offender.
Sure.
And it is an offender. But in my personal experience, untreated shame is the number one offender. And it will kill your spirit. And if you are an addict, it will kill you faster than anything else. And I've seen so many people I love, some who are still alive, but they're just the living dead, die from not treating and healing their shame. So we talked about sort of this more formal 9-step process, right? And the rigorous practice of redirecting your talk to a more compassionate self-talk, right? But on the daily, it's this simple, right? If I took a modern version of the 12 steps and I reduced it down to 2 things, like imagine a pyramid and I'm sitting at the top of it and my legs are straddled over each side, my left and right? On the left is compassionate curiosity, and on the right is radical responsibility. So if I'm moving through the day, I have 2 kids, and let's say I snap at them. Very common, you know? I'm just like, you know?
Yeah.
And then immediately, why the fuck did you just do that? Right? Guilt, shame, regret. Here's the pivot. Why did I just do that? Why did I just do that? Compassionate curiosity. Oh, I haven't eaten like 6 hours. I didn't even get outside. I haven't done a single thing to take care of myself. I just went from this to this to this. I picked them up. And radical responsibility. Hey, Jack, I'm sorry. I just got angry and I'm hungry and I shouldn't have done that. And next time I'm gonna prepare better before I come get you. I love you. The end.
Yeah.
I am now not stuck under the weight of guilt, regret, and shame, so I can continue to have my intuitive self sitting in the seat of CEO of my life and directing the compass. That's all the work. I mean, that's how simply I've been able to reduce it down to. It's not simple at all, especially with complex trauma. There's so much stuff covering it up.
Yeah.
Right? So many conditioned beliefs, cultural ideations, traumatic experiences, limiting beliefs, competing beliefs, everything sitting on top of it. Instant gratification everywhere you turn. Poof, poof, poof. And at the very bottom, shame. Oh. And when you clear that out, there it is. There's that well of light and hope and possibility. But there's fucking work to do.
You know, I was reading a study, and they asked, I don't know, 1,000 or 10,000 kids, 18 years old, what would you like your father to have done more for you? And they said exactly what you just said. Work more on himself.
You know, it's funny. I was just talking to 2 moms last night, and they're not addicts, but they were stressing and struggling about their kids entering this 12, 13-year-old phase and getting exposed to all the things, and the Pornhub came up, okay, with these kids. And we're just going through it. And it's like, every time I think about, because they're like, what would you have done? Right. And I'm thinking about, I don't know. I haven't been in that situation. Listen, my children are starting to wonder, why does this feel good when I touch this part of my body? I mean, those things are coming up, right? A lot of parenting is happening on the fly. And I'm like, what is the most age appropriate way to respond to this right now, where I am open and they know they can come to me. Right. And at some point, there is just fear, because it is a big, scary world. And I just looked at them. I said, you guys, the research has shown us that the strongest indicator of who our children become is based on who we are and what we do and how we behave, not what we say, not what we tell them to do. It's just who we are. And we can do something about that every single day. Thank God. So yes to that, not just in general, like there is research on that.
Yeah.
And I love being able to redirect inward. You know, it's not just powerlessness in step one. It's what am I powerful over? Now that I know what I can't control and I'm clear on that and I have humility around that, what am I powerful over? What an amazing thing to think about.
Well, that's why they say always actions speak louder than words. Don't talk about it, be about it.
Yep.
So it's like somebody that, and that goes with anything, like a program, you're not in a place that you are today from a spiritual standpoint to even writing the book if you didn't put the actionable steps required to actually fulfill that within you. You didn't sit there and hope and wish and dream. Yes, of course, they're in your intuition, your thoughts, and which are getting, to me, planted by God to allow you to hear from your intuition, allow you to actually listen to her voice speak to you, and then you have to go and do and put that work in to then obviously create something like this, which I think a lot of people struggle with, because it's not the funnest to look at yourself, especially when you think one way, and then when you really start doing the work, you see some things that aren't the prettiest about oneself. And that goes with like action in a relationship, a marriage, a friendship. If you love someone, you're going to act a certain type of way and show them in a way that they can actually see, feel, as opposed to words. Saying I love you is great. That's nothing. Show me. How?
Yep. Yeah.
So that's why it's always with anything, it's like everything requires action. And then you talk about fitness and everything. I believe everything is all works together, mind, body, soul. If one is lacking, you'll feel it.
Yep.
And it's important, or else it will trickle into other things. And then the little analogy that you brought up with your kids, and if you don't address it right then, they stack.
Yep.
And then bad behavior continues to either happen, and then the shame will continue to grow.
Yep.
Because you don't nip it in the bud and press on.
Yep.
And that's how I feel like we get stuck.
I think that's something that's so exciting about where I am right now. Like if you guys had interviewed me last year, I would not have had the kind of clarity about my work in the world as I do right here in this moment. And what I mean by that is, you know, I was so fortunate after losing my sister that my husband's business was doing well enough to support me while I was grieving and creating. So I was not pressed to see patients. And honestly, I had nothing to give, nothing. And then my book came out and I was like, it's go time, girl. Right? But then who am I? Am I a physical therapist? Am I a coach? Am I a speaker? Am I an author? What's my lane?
Wife, mother, like what?
Identity collapse, right? Or taking on all the identities and people being confused about my offering. Well, then what do you do? And what I now understand from just showing up and letting people tell me what my gifts are is that the combination of body with spirit is my superpower, and that I do not have to separate the two, right? So if I meet somebody, you know, I have all the one-liner elevator pitches in the land because I've been to so many business seminars. It's insane, right? Hi, I'm Dr. Samantha Harte. Best-selling author, speaker, personal development coach, and I help people build pain-free bodies and purpose-driven lives.
I like the purpose-driven lives.
It's like,
Man, can you come help me get rid of this pain?
I sure can. I sure can. What was really cool about my clinic, right, is that when I got out of grad school, right, here I am, I'm newly sober, and I'm like, oh my God, I have this sexy degree, and I'm gonna help everybody, you know? And then I get out and I'm like, wait, you people want me to see 5 patients at one time and have them doing like straight leg raises when they want to go and do an ultra marathon? Is this a fucking joke? And I'm getting paid $33 an hour and I'm $100,000 in debt, right? So I went in search of a job where I was only seeing 1 patient at a time. And I stuck to that. And I feel like it's what made me a great clinician. I have always been so attuned to the patient and from their head to their toe, what is going on and what the source of the problem is. But 3 years in, I was still totally broke and noticing the very broken system because I was like, where are all these people going when insurance is like, you're good.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I'm like, I was a professional dancer growing up. I would not want to be doing straight leg raises. Get me back to a dance class.
Yeah.
Get me moving in 3 dimensions, jumping and landing, absolutely pain-free with amazing biomechanics. Who the fuck is doing that?
I've done that. I've stretched in 3 different ways. No, seriously.
Oh, okay.
I've done that stuff.
That was like a great setup for
on the floor, and I had a guy, and he said, "Okay, you put your toe like this, you put your thing back, and then you stretch your leg this way, and then you pull, and just a different skeletal stretching, something like that."
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I've done exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
However, I had to search for it. My insurance wasn't going to cover it. I
No,
had
no,
to go find
$400 an hour. This guy was charging me. I have it all on video. I went 8 times. I have it all on video. I couldn't. Who could afford it?
No, but I'm talking about like, I'm having an individualized type of therapy that you need to get back to whatever that is. So like mine is like fast twitch movement for my body. No, like insurance was going to just send me to someone that's going to have me do like not what I need. I need to like get the body to be able to perform and to move the way that I need it to move without it re-injuring or having to go into surgery again or something like that. Somebody that is knowledgeable enough to work outside the box because the system is broken.
Exactly.
And 4 weeks ain't gonna do it.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, great. So I had to search for an individual that was with that mindset like yours and then pay out of pocket.
Yep.
That ain't right. When I'm supposed to be paying at the time, I'm like, how does that make sense? I'm paying like the best so-called insurance.
I know. I mean, once I started to say to people, where are you going once you get discharged to get from 60 to 100? Sure. They were like, I don't know, a trainer or a Pilates instructor. I was like, how about I train you? So don't train with your trainer, train with your doctor. It was an easy sell because I made my prices competitive.
Sure.
With personal trainers in the area, right? And so that was how Strong Harte Fitness was born. It was also born in the marital crisis because he was not financially sharing money. And so I was destitute. Sure. I was like, I have to figure something out.
Yeah.
And besides the color blue, that was sort of the next amazing thing my intuition at the time said, hey girl, you should start your own thing. Like there's a whole big business out there and a need that is not being met. And you can totally meet that need. And I had a private practice for 10 years in Santa Monica where I just treated whole body, whole person and got people back to full fitness and function and taught them about injury prevention.
Sure.
And then when the pandemic happened, right, a lot of people fled. A lot of my stuff moved online, which was great because so much of it was movement oriented and people weren't depending on me for manual therapy.
Yeah.
So my business stayed open. But I started to feel disgruntled, not only because of the spiritual side that I wasn't tackling, but also because of who I could help or not help, because not everybody can afford. Right? I'm like, what am I doing not putting my shit online? I've had hundreds of amazing workout programs. I better start capturing this shit. So I started filming myself every day, meditations, stretch programs, dance workouts, strength, HIIT, yoga. I'm yoga certified, everything. I shot a couple of really high level professional fitness programs. And then my sister died and I didn't do anything with any of it. all this time later, now, I've created this ecosystem around me, and I'm finally seeing how to crystallize it. One thing that's in beta testing right now for me is this 90-day online coaching program called Hardcore Hustlers, right? So it's like female entrepreneurs who are moms who want to have it all, but they're being told they can't. And they have some kind of guilt, regret, or shame. And they're struggling with some cycle of dysfunction or addiction.
Which is 80% of housewives.
There
And
you go.
they're also on medication.
There you go.
60% of them
Yeah.
are on some kind of a pill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're hitting a huge target.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And
Also, I just wanted to point out too that I think it's 72.3% of all statistics are made up. Because the ones that Shane just threw out right now, he's guessing.
Oh,
but
fucking right there.
but here's the thing.
so good.
You're probably pretty fucking
probably right.
I think
accurate.
I am.
Like,
It's pretty heavy. I
It-
think
it
I read
is.
it was 60%. It was
I
a
mean,
few years ago I read.
60% of all housewives are on medication.
That's
of
what I had
some
read
point.
a little while ago. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And
They're
not
controlling
like,
they're the main purchasers of goods, services, family, and direction.
and all of them are drinking wine.
All of them.
Yep.
Popping pills too.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little,
no
a,
one's
a,
and
a little Xanny bar.
and very few
a
are
little,
praying.
A little
Very few are
a little
praying.
Valium. Why are you gonna pray when you got a bottle of wine and a Xanny bar? Like, for real. I'm not.
Fuck. That's terrible.
And you know, I'm not like some kind of crazy like everybody in the world needs to be sober.
No.
But-
Everybody needs to believe in a power. Great
Oh, yeah.
But let me tell
to a
you,
degree,
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
your
give me a
life
damn
will
tree branch.
improve if you do. That's what I say. If you know, because the way I see the world now is like, and I'm not trying. I would love for everybody to come to the healing that I've come to, and I still have a long way to go.
We all do.
You know, but as it sits currently, my competition is limited. You know, everybody starts getting sober and doing what we do. Competition really rises. Not saying that's a bad thing, but it's you know, at the end of the day, how many people in the world are really gonna work the steps?
Not me.
But if everybody did, this world would be a very, very, very different place.
Well, look at how many self-help books there are.
The great divide.
Endless.
And here's the one thing: every self-help book, in my opinion, at the end of the day, and I've read a ton of them, and I love them all. They're all pretty much the same. They leave out the most important. All of them leave out let me say like 95% of them leave out the most important part of self-help, and that is the spiritual part. Because I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Maybe spirituality doesn't sell as well out there in the real world, but it's the one piece that is of utmost importance. You know, you don't have to be a Christian or some crazy, you know, dogmatic, you know, religious person. You just need, because spirituality is like love. So it comes from a place of love. It's all love based. And that's where we need to be.
Yeah.
Take the dogma out of it.
And I'm agreeing with you, bro, but here's the thing.
Whenever you say but, though, you're not agreeing.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
So here,
exactly.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm not going to say, but I'm agreeing with you. Here's the thing. The Bible should be everyone's purpose. The Bible is filled with good.
Yes.
It's filled with peace. It's filled with hope. It's filled
Love.
with love. It's filled with direction.
And compass of being a better person.
That's what I'm saying. Now, is that Christian? Is it Catholic? Is it Jewish? Is it Hindu? It's whatever. Any peaceful book like the Bible shows purpose.
No, I agree. I agree with you 100%. It's not the Bible that screws up Christianity.
Humans.
Yeah.
It's the church. It's the actual churches
Yeah.
that
Organizations.
screw
Yeah.
and the interpretation
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
And that's why I encourage people to. I encourage you want to go to church, please, please do. But I encourage people to really just have that that relationship, their own
100%. You
relationship,
have to.
and you can't make what your relationship can't be like what I need. You know, it's not my relationship
you're
with
right.
God
It's very
is going to be
personal.
mine.
Yeah, 100%,
it is
bro.
personal.
100%.
I have something to say about this. So, because I'm someone who hated the word God, recoiled at the word.
Yeah.
Okay? I want to speak to those people
Yes.
out there because there are so many, you know. And if you come from a house where in order to feel safe, you cannot believe in God, or the God of your childhood was punishing, there's trauma around that word. And so you will do everything you can not to unpack that until you are hopefully still alive and desperate and willing and ready. And I'm one of the lucky ones that didn't die before I found my understanding of God. So when I speak to someone who is anti-God, spiritually bankrupt, and I think of something like step 2, and I remember the visceral reaction, right? Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Here's how I interpreted that. A kid from a lot of trauma, right? No God. You want me to believe that there is some fucking dude up in the sky waving a wand who's going to strike me sane because I'm crazy? Fuck you. I'm not crazy. I did what I had to do to survive. How dare you, right? Okay, so I am so not in that space, but for the person who is, how do we reimagine that step so it's trauma informed? So we still get to the underbelly and we fill your spirit with love. Can I come to believe that a higher part of myself, other than my addict part, other than my controlling part, can restore me to a sense of safety? How different is that? Now that my God consciousness is elevated, I could say God all day long.
Yeah.
I love talking about God,
Me too.
but I love remembering who I used to be. And there are so many people who cannot find their way forward
Yeah.
in these programs because of that word,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a lot of amazing ways to access a power greater than yourself. But a lot of addicts do not feel safe doing so because of what they lived through. And we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
We have to meet them there.
100%.
And then they have to do the fucking work, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not a spiritual bypass, right? Like, but there's a compassionate side to this.
Yeah.
That, you said maybe I didn't have the right sponsor. I had a lot of sponsors. I had more than one. Nobody in 5 years suggested I make an amends to myself. Nobody.
Weird. I want to ask you something. Statistically,
Here we go.
Here we go.
making it is like 5. We can agree. It's 5%. Let's call
Yep.
it 10. Whatever. I'll go high.
It's low
Let's call it 10
Making it, what do you,
in recovery.
in recovery.
Yep.
Why not let these people know the second they walk in the door, slap them right in the head and say, hey, if you don't find God, you will die. Because that is the bottom line.
Because they'll choose death.
At least they know what's coming.
I would have run.
You would have run?
I would have run. No, I would have run.
Okay.
Alcoholics Anonymous is as close to getting it right as you can get it right,
I
man.
agree.
Without like because like I grew up with God, but by the time I got to in my program of choice has always been Narcotics Anonymous, just because those are my people, right? But when I walked in the room, I hated God. I grew up in a really conservative religion, and there's no way that God would have ever accepted me, and I was going to be damned into eternal damnation for forever. And my religion believes in a fiery pit of hell. That's what they believe, and it's a very painful eternity, and it's an eternity. So if you don't go to heaven, you go to,
You're burning.
you're burning.
Well, I mean, think about this. I walked in grew up Catholic. Same. Like, you're fucking punishing, but that's
Yeah, but
not
you
God.
guys at least got a chance
Yeah.
through purgatory.
But that's
So
why.
you see how you can't just say that to an addict?
Some people need the baseball bat.
I mean, I do.
A few
do.
people do.
I'm very much.
There are a group of people though that baseball bat will work really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Just there's a group of. I mean, look, chin check therapy is a really good therapy in jail, but it's not for everyone. Could you imagine if I punched somebody in the jaw because they stole a candy bar? But you steal a candy bar in jail.
Yeah, you get punched in the jaw. You're not doing it.
Guess what? Nobody steals in jail.
No.
And you're talking about thieves.
Yeah,
But in jail,
they know.
you'll steal one time.
Yeah,
You will never steal again.
yeah.
But it's all being able to talk to an individual, because you can meet every single person. You just have to be able to reword certain things and make them feel comfortable and heard, and
Yep.
not like you're demanding something of them that they, because what is beautiful about the program, and that's why I kind of agree with, they almost got it completely correct, because obviously nothing's going to be perfect, but they show you how to guide someone, because they have chapters like we agnostics and atheists kind of through that process. And the girls that I've sponsored, there's been many that had this like just, and some rightfully so, from being a kid and bad things happening, which is a human thing, not
Yep.
anything more than that. But if you're able to compassionately kind of walk them through it, eventually all of the ones that so far that I've experienced end up coming to believing in a higher power, and that being God.
Yep.
On their time.
Yep.
And he'll seep in when they're ready for it. But I will say, because I've had, because I'm like that too, hard-headed and want to do it my way, but it's like, dude, you wound up in these rooms. You ain't running the show right. You crashed and burned because you want to be here. And that's kind of like my go-to, because it's like, okay, if you can drive and you're driving amazing and you're in that seat, why are you here? Why are you want to kill yourself? Why are you trying to actively die or hoping that you don't wake up? What is it?
Yeah.
And then you move, and then you go into work, and then you walk into the rooms and you hear so many people saying these crazy, wild things where I'm like, they're lying. They have to be lying. But you go into so many other rooms and they're all saying the same thing. So it's like, what are they doing here? Maybe I'm going to give this a little bit of a whirl and give it a go and try and see what happens.
I'm going to ask you something. In your experience, those people that didn't believe in God in the first month or 2 weeks, did they also want to do the work, the exercise, the change of eating habits, the prayer to whoever, or meditation? Say not prayer, meditation, journaling, everything else but the God thing. Were they open to everything else?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Have you guys heard of IFS therapy? It's kind of like hot right now. Okay.
No.
And I'm not a psychologist, right? But it's called internal family systems. And it's a way to identify different parts of you and understand why they're there and why they're showing up. Our addict part, our controlling part, kind of talked about that, right? And it's a fascinating therapeutic modality. And it's actually really, really beneficial for people with complex trauma. And I have no idea how I was using that, because I didn't know about it at the time. But essentially, that's what happened to me in that making an amends process, is that I was able to go, hey, critic, hey, girl, I think you're here to protect me. And you've been working so hard. And I honor your service. I love you for that. You saved my life for most of it, but now you're killing me. You're killing me. And I need you to just stand down. I need you to trust that I can direct the ship for a little bit. At least give it a shot, because there's nowhere to go but up from here, right? So why does that matter, right? Like, people who cannot get down with God their highest self is buried. And there are other parts. There are other parts of them. There are other parts of them, the manager, the controller, the procrastinator, the hypervigilant producer of things, that are driving the bus of their life. They don't even know that that's what's happening, but that's what's happening. So it's not even in the realm of possibility, nor does it feel safe to slide that part over to a different seat and suddenly let God sit in the seat of CEO. It's not even possible to them. They're not done using those behaviors, not because they're self-centered and they're stuck in ego, because that is what kept them alive for their whole life. So why should they give it up? They've got to exhaust it until it stops working, until they can go, hey, protector part, I fucking love you, but you're killing me. And then God can enter. It's deep.
Yeah.
It's not as, I mean, I'm speaking to you guys as somebody from, you know, a background of like, there was no God, right? And now there's this, well, God is everywhere for me. I feel like my God consciousness is so dialed in. And the way that I pray is so intentional. You know, it's always redirected to self. God, help me be more like you. Help me attract rather than chase. Help me want everything and need nothing. Anytime I'm in pain and I'm stuck somewhere, I just reverse engineer the stuckness by saying a conscious prayer or mantra.
Breaking the circuit.
Exactly. But I fucking remember when there was no God. And it was such a scary and lonely place. And I understand now that I was just desperately trying to protect myself. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. You know? So I just wonder, right? Like my attempt at writing this book and making the steps more current with what we now know about childhood trauma and psychology and addiction is my attempt to cast the widest net on who I can help.
Yeah.
Especially people who cannot find God, and give them another way to move forward.
Right. I understand what you're saying. So instead of touching on the God, you just work around gratefulness, thankful for your body, thankful for getting up each day, so you can work around things. And you become grateful each day, and it just adds on, all of a sudden God pops into your brain or your heart.
Yeah, and I think when you stop beating yourself up, you can hear the whisper of God. That is why clearing out shame is the absolute most important thing I think any of us could do in our entire lives. That has been my personal experience. I could not hear God until I cleared out my shame. And there are many, many ways to do that. You can do that somatically. You can move your body. You can have, you know, all kinds of nervous system techniques. You can pray. You can meditate. You can
Everything.
reparent yourself.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was listening to a lady last night. She grounds every day, and she drinks certain amounts of water every day, and she prays a certain type of way every day for her body parts, and she's grateful every day and thankful. And she's now free of sickness for I think 4 or 5 years, but she continues on that path.
Something I do every night that, you know, it started as a gratitude list because this was something we do in recovery, and it's morphed into this really cool list over the last 10 years with this sober friend of mine. And we send an email to each other. We write a couple things that went well that day, a couple things that could have gone better. And this is within ourselves, right? Not like, oh, the weather.
Sure. Yeah.
And the things that could have gone better, very, very specifically, not with blame or shame.
Sure.
Right? Just radical responsibility and accountability. Ways that I lived in alignment with my ideal self. Blessings of the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to call them glimmers. You know, it's the opposite of a trigger, especially when you're a parent. Sometimes the days are a shitstorm. They are a fucking shitstorm, right? But if you are paying attention, there is at least one, but probably many, many glimmers,
For sure.
magical moments, right? So I want to remember them. I want to look for them. I want to write them down. And then I write my intentions for tomorrow. And almost always, if I get to like tonight, a Friday, I don't remember what I'm doing tomorrow.
Sure.
I checked my schedule earlier in the week, but I don't know. Let me look again. Let me scan my Saturday. Okay. Is Sam on her own schedule? Am I moving my body tomorrow? Did I put myself on my schedule like I put my doctor's appointment?
Right.
Shit. Can I find 10 minutes or 30 minutes? And am I doing something with my family? Am I doing something to serve somebody else? What does it look like tomorrow? And how can I manipulate that schedule now so I can go into tomorrow conscious, awake, aware? And I love that practice. Like that's my step 10 every night now. It's really powerful.
What does your morning look like?
Listen, guys, I wish I could tell you I have some epic,
Sure.
Morning meditation ritual. My kids are of an age where most of the time they're poking me on the nose when
Sure.
I'm still asleep, and that's how I wake up. I will say, though, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I heard a guy named TJ Powers on, I think, Lewis Howe's podcast, and he's a neuroscientist. And he was talking all about our phones and dopamine and what is happening chemically to our brains. And it really stopped me in my tracks. And one of the recommendations he made was, if you can, just do not look at your phone for the first 15 minutes of the day. Just don't. Because the chemical cascade when we do, of that quick spike and crash and how we're going to keep chasing that is off to the races. Very similar to just having the one drink. Very similar. And I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. So I just leave. I don't even look at it. I leave my phone on the nightstand. I brush my teeth. I make my coffee. And if nobody's awake, I just talk to God. That's a really good morning if that's how it shakes down. Yeah. What about you?
She gets up, she does a cold plunge, and then she sticks her face in a bucket of water. She meditates for
Right now, my current routine is I get up pretty early so that I'm on this little spiritual journey. I've always had a really good relationship with my higher power just through sobriety, but it's definitely looked many different ways, meaning I'll skim through my readings that are suggested and kind of hurry that process up. And then as of late, I've been really diligent on, I'll spend an hour with God and I'll be in the Bible, seeking his word, reading a daily devotion, and trying to start my day with him first. And then usually I'll work out, but that hasn't been happening in the last couple weeks. And then that's like a fantastic morning for me because then I can get it. Fill me up with the Holy Spirit so I could walk in and pour that into everybody else. And I've noticed a difference by doing that and staying disciplined with that that hour. Just to set me on the highest frequency that I possibly can, so that I'm not running a crazy race in my own brain. It's like everybody needs to find that, like you talking about looking at your schedule for the next day and putting yourself on it. I think that's like the number one. I feel like we were mentioning in like the housewives. What I think I've just like, and I can't speak too much on it because I don't have children. But I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and then just from kind of seeing some of the women that I've seen in the rooms as well. I think what happens is that women forget about themselves and they put all of their effort, which is like beautiful at the same time, into their children or their family. And ultimately then they lose who they are, and then they feel a lack thereof. And they're seeking other things to make them feel good, which is primarily everybody, which is like dopamine, serotonin. We need all of those things firing. And they don't know where to chase. And then that's when they either pick up a bottle and a pill. And then all of a sudden now they're off to the races with an addiction, which then is a completely other beast that they never really had, instead of carving out and putting themselves on their schedule first so that they can pour in and feel more fulfilled, as opposed to feeling run down because they're getting pulled in 700 different directions. Because as you know, as a mother, that's kind of what happens. Kids are wild individuals, you know. Mom, where are my shoes? Mom, where's this? Mom, you know. So it's like the whole try to get, and then like I watch my nieces and nephews, and I'm just like, damn, like we are a fucking fuck show as kids, you know. And it's wild to see. Like I have so much gratitude to my parents because they didn't have stuff like this. Like they didn't have the amount of like we have the internet. You can type in anything and you can do some research, or you can get some type of action to do whatever that may be, or go to a workout class, or do something that you can kind of stumble upon, or get a book. My parents, when they were raising us, it's like they didn't do any of that. They're like very much your typical, just not doing this type of stuff.
Yeah, my parents didn't do any bit of work. It just wasn't a thing.
It wasn't
then.
And we talk about it so much more now. I think the conversation is a lot more open for individuals to talk about whatever it is that's going on within themselves.
Yeah.
And what they struggle with.
But things are different, man. Back 40 years ago, people were praying every day. They were doing exercise every day.
There's a lot more
School
family,
looked different. The
Even
family,
your neighbors.
the
like,
family was more nuclear. You had kids. Your doors were open.
Yep.
You had kids on the street playing till 10 o'clock at night. You went home when the lights were off. I mean, it was just a different time. You didn't need the internet. You didn't need those books to raise your children. There weren't those problems out there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was just a different time. You know.
I mean, I think those books did exist because my parents did self-help books.
Really?
Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah, for sure. They were, and then they
They had
involved-
Suzanne Summers doing
fitness stuff.
doing
Yeah.
the fitness stuff.
Yeah.
Jane,
I mean,
not that
Jane
I like
Fonda.
Jane Fonda, but
Yep.
I can't stand her. But yeah, she was.
Things did look a lot different. What's funny is like, you know, you go back and you look at videos, and yes, kids were thinner,
Yeah, they were.
but your fitness people were thicker than your fitness. When I say thicker, I mean their percent body fat was way higher. You know, Jane Fonda, her little workout programs, she wasn't like shredded.
No, she
Same with
was not.
Suzanne Summers.
But I'm gonna say that they were probably healthier than the majority of fitness people today.
Yeah.
Because look, fitness, being insanely fit, I just want to be clear, doesn't equal health.
No.
There's a lot of people out there that are unhealthy but look really, really good.
I mean, go to any bodybuilding competition.
Well, that
people
bodybuilding
on
is the
stage.
most unhealthy
For sure.
sport on the planet, and
Yeah.
even bodybuilders will tell you that. And they don't do it for health; they do it because they love it.
I have a story about this.
I want to hear it.
So I was 3 months postpartum with my daughter, and she's my second. And that pregnancy was really complicated, and I was afraid she was going to die while she was in the womb, and, you know, gained a bunch of weight. First time around, I had postpartum depression after my son and just bounced back, but I was fucking miserable.
Right.
Okay, so there's that story. But then with my daughter, I'm gaining, you know, a little more weight. Second
Sure.
time she comes, and I'm like, oh my God, she made it. It was a totally different experience. It was the opposite. Hard pregnancy, really easy postpartum. And then my dad died. And my dad played the role of family enabler in the dynamic. And up until the day he died, he was still giving my mom and my sister prescription drugs that were not prescribed to them. And I tried so hard to forgive him. Intellectually, I forgave him through working the steps. I understood he was limited and doing the best he could with the tools he had and all this stuff. Emotionally, it was just a constant betrayal. Constant, right? So when he died, I didn't understand that I was about to run as fast as I could from the powerlessness over the way the relationship ended. And I was like, watch me bounce back. World, you know, 3 months postpartum, I got all this weight to lose. And so I set out on a mission to be even more fit than the first time. And then I get to my pre-pregnancy weight, and a voice inside my head goes, I wonder how skinny I could get now. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm not okay. God had left the building, gone. And I got so thin but I was jacked. And the whole world praised the fucking shit out of me.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there was this moment, my husband took me on a date and we went to some LA place where you can be in a flotation tank for an hour.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I
And
always
so,
wanted to do that.
yeah, we were in our own.
Yeah.
So,
Together?
no, he had his own
Okay.
whole thing and I had mine for an hour. I know
Yeah.
that would be hilarious, right? We'd probably kill each other. And 45 minutes of the hour is just me obsessed because we were going to go to sushi dinner and I was already like,
Oh, okay.
what are you going to eat and not
Yep.
eat? You're going to
Yeah.
gain 5 pounds of water weight by tomorrow. How long are you going to work? I was measuring everything, working out 3 hours a day. I was like, I fucking cracked the code. This is how people get jacked. I'm going to make so much money selling this fucking shit. And so I'm obsessing. And then because I couldn't go anywhere, everything stopped at 45 minutes. And my intuitive self showed up. And she said, why are you punishing me? I was like, yeah, it's me in this tank. And I knew exactly what she meant, right? Because I felt ashamed that I had this chip on my shoulder with my father and that I couldn't reconcile it in physical form, at least with him here on earth. And I couldn't face that. I could not sit in that grief. And so I was basically trying to make myself disappear. So while the whole world thought I was so healthy, I was dying. I was literally dying. And I had enough recovery in that moment. It was just a mini spiritual awakening to go right into prayer and breath work and meditation. So I just inhaled and said, I love you, Sam. I exhaled and said, I forgive you, Dad. And I did it over and over and over. And then I switched and I inhaled and said, I love you, Dad. And I exhaled and said, I forgive you, Sam. And that was the beginning of that healing journey and releasing sort of the stranglehold over food and body. But, oh yeah.
This is a tough one. Food and body is tough.
Tough.
Because we control
especially
it.
for women.
For sure.
Sorry. And it's tough for guys too, in a different way, but fuck. What, I mean, I was thinking about this now, like talking to my husband about perimenopause. I'm 42. And here I am, my dad died 6 years ago. So I'm like at least 3 years in this healing journey of releasing. Like, I don't measure my food.
Sure.
I don't, I feel like I threw my scale out. I don't wear a fitness watch. I mean, and it's been unbelievable. I eat healthy when I want fucking pizza, which Friday nights is always pizza movie night in my house. I don't eat the cauliflower crust pizza. I eat the I'm in this great place, right? And now I'm in the last year. I'm like, why am I gaining weight around my midsection? Why am I losing muscle mass? I'm not doing anything different. Why am I breaking out like I'm in high school? Why am I getting hot flat? All this stuff, right? And I know my body. I've had babies. So I went and go get my hormones checked. Sure enough, one of them's in the fucking toilet. They're like, welcome to perimenopause. We're going to get you on. Right? So now I'm like, what an unbelievable thing women contend with for our whole lives, trying to fit inside the beauty and body standard. I remember my 20s was like an obsession to be thin. And I would do all kinds of exercise that I hated just to be thin, like running. I hate running.
Me
And
too.
I would run and run to be thin. And then 30s is the era of having kids, right? Gaining weight, miscarrying, gaining weight, having the baby, having to lose the weight, the whole world making comments about your fucking body, doing it a second time, right? Getting back in shape, finally healing. And then perimenopause. I'm like, wow. Unbelievable. Yeah. It's incredible, what it takes to be truly, truly healthy in mind and body.
What's sick about it too, though, is like during all those like little phases, even if you get to whatever little ideal nonsense that we create in our own imagination, it's never enough.
Never. And it was never enough when I got there. Because it was like, how am I going to keep this?
Yeah, I know.
How am I? It was never, you got here. You did it.
Yay, let's celebrate. It's like,
Nope.
Yeah, I know. It's wild.
You know what I had to eat last night? I went to In-N-Out.
I was just going to say, it better be like Burger
Yeah,
King
right.
now.
I got a double. I got animal fries, and I got a vanilla shake, and I ate it all of it, like on the way home.
Did your tongue bleed?
No, because of that. But I did realize that it's really hard to get the ice cream through the straw.
Bro.
So I waited till I got home and got a spoon because it was hurting my tongue.
You see?
So In and Out guys, they're
never do
they're
it.
too thick.
I never ever
And you
have
can't get it through the
Yeah,
straw.
you need a spoon. That's the whole only
So I
way to
just
do
took it home. I got the spoon and I ate it that way. Then I went to bed and I woke up and I was like,
What did I do?
I said that wasn't quite enough. So I went down and had like a half a tub of ice cream on top of that.
Nice.
Hormones are important, and I'm not sure why Western medicine doesn't immediately check every single human being's hormones. That should be like standard, right?
Yeah.
Because for men and women.
Yeah.
I go to the gym often and I look and I'm like, oh, that dude, that poor guy. This is what I think in my head. He has low testosterone and his doctors never told him.
Yep.
I can see low testosterone, and it's sad because you don't have to have that, and you're actually going to live a longer, healthier life if you get your hormones balanced correctly.
Yeah, and this is like a theme in what we're talking about today, which is be your own advocate
For sure.
in this very broken healthcare system.
Yes.
It's broken.
You have to.
I went into my gynecologist and I was like, you have to check my hormones.
Because they wouldn't have.
No,
They won't. They
They
don't
don't.
check ours.
They
They
do
don't
the
check. They don't.
basics.
They don't check men's hormones ever. It's not. We have to. We have to go in and be like. And still, it's like, well, it's not covered by insurance, or it's this, or it's that, and I. Who fucking cares? Just tell me what it is, because I'm gonna fix it myself if you won't.
Yep.
Like, I'm not gonna live my life with a testosterone. And look, low T. And I'm sorry, whatever medical says. Anything below 700 for a man is low testosterone. I know they tell you that the range is 300 to 1100, Shane.
I think so.
1100.
I feel it's 1100 to 3000 personally.
That's a over T.
Yeah, I take over tea.
But for real, I mean, and then women, and we've kind of gotten to a point in our lives, the men, that where we advocate for ourselves, but it hasn't. Women need to start advocating for each other and saying, "Hey, have you checked your hormone levels?"
Yeah, I made a big post about this and showed all these pictures of all the phases my body has been through and sort of the unrelenting pressure and the constant self-examination and advocacy. And I had a lot of people write to me and all of them are my age, in their 40s. And they're like, oh my God, I have been getting insomnia. And I'm like, have you had your hormones checked?
Yeah.
No, I probably should though, right?
Yeah, you should.
Yes. That's why I made that post. Yes, you should.
110%. You should get your hormone levels checked. Men, women, all of us. You sleep better at night. I sleep like a baby. I've been sleeping actually too good.
Well, it's just like women too. Like, we can have low test.
Yeah.
Oh, you can have low T. You can have low E. Men can have high estrogen and low T.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's where we get boobies. We get really soft on the side right here, and you don't have to. You don't have to have that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, if that's how you want, and you want to just live, and because your doctor is, he's got an MD, and I come from, my dad is a doctor, my family's all nurses. I just say this stuff because, like, Western medicine is terrible. We are the best at emergency medicine.
Right.
I if I have a
Car
broken
crash,
arm or I'm having a heart attack or something like that, we're incredible.
Yeah.
The rest of our medicine is owned and run by big pharma.
Yep.
Which is why we have to be our own advocates.
Yep.
So that we have preventative health.
Did you know that I'm 51? Shane, how old are you?
43.
58. How many Western pharmaceutical medications are you on today? Two.
None too.
But those are for like mental health issues, right?
Pro and Vraylar.
So yeah, those are. But as far as
Do you not want to talk on the mic?
Lexapro and Vraylar.
What are you doing over there?
He's done. He's done already.
Yeah.
It's
an hour 13.
It's an hour
Right,
13 minutes.
About 75 minutes I tune out.
Horrible.
What's funny is like I'm on none.
None.
You know, none.
Same.
And most people that are 51 years old in the United States are on a minimum of 3.
Really?
3.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't feel good. Give me something.
Damn.
That's where we're at.
And I had high blood pressure for a while, and I was like, how am I going to fix this? Because I'm not going to take high blood pressure medicine. That actually means if I'm going to have to take high blood pressure medicine, that means I'm old. So I figured it out. You want to know how I figured what I
Yeah,
did?
tell
I
me.
went all organic. I took all the pesticides. I got my hormone levels exactly where they're supposed to be. I get my blood work done twice a year, every 6 months, and I take a few peptides.
Yeah, I mean, this all goes back to not just the very, very broken, I mean, the food system, things that we're...
Don't even get me started on that one. For sure.
And
the
here's
poison
Yeah,
everywhere, really, and the spiritual side.
For sure.
And how it's keeping people very, very, very sick.
it's also making people very, very, very wealthy. So I
Yes.
tell
Yeah.
people to please hesitate everything bad and negative that you hear about peptides, and including, I want to include 2 peptides that people that are biggest on the radars right now would be, and I don't want to call them by their pharmaceutical names because they are those names are wrong. They're actual peptides. There's 2 of them, semaglutide and trizipatide. The one of the reasons why media is out there, first off, Big Pharma wants to own it, but the media is out there because the Food and Drug the people that produce food and Big Pharma are losing money.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're going to say negative things about those. I'm not saying not everybody needs those 2 peptides, but they are nowhere near as bad. Food doesn't sit in your stomach and rot because guess what? Our stomach is an acid bath. It's not a trash can. It doesn't just sit there and rot. It's being acid and pushed down. And the reason why it slows your digestive system down is because some people actually need their digestive system slowed down so that it triggers their brain to not be hungry
Yep.
and eat. These little things, there's so many myths to these peptides. A lot of them are good. You can overdo them, like some people we know. But hey,
What did you
I
do?
take
I
like
have
15
a
shots a
question.
day.
I have a question for you. What did you do to get your marriage back on track?
I'm so glad you asked that. Yeah. So
Because
I
you said you separated and
Yeah.
you got an apartment, yeah?
yeah, I did the 12 steps in this fresh new way, right? Started to love on myself.
Was this pre-children? Or okay.
Pre-children,
Okay.
found God, right? We were in therapy, but we weren't living together and things seemed to be going better. And so I moved back in. But my intuition said, see if you can convert this apartment to your first fitness studio. And I did. And that's how Strong Harte Fitness was born. I moved back home. I have this new place, this business. And I look him in the eye and I'm like, oh my God, it's not me. It's you. I don't know what's going on with you. But within 3 weeks, I was like, no, I don't deserve this. And he begged me to stay, dropped to his knees, cried. And my intuition was like, you can stay. Girl, you've been moving for months. You're going to find out everything you need to know, whether you stay or go. So if you need to rest a minute, that's fine. And he went on a trip, and came back, collapsed on top of me and said, you're going to be the mother of my children. And then the next day I found out from the woman who he was cheating on me with that he had been having a 5-year extramarital affair.
Oh, shit.
On and off that started before I got sober and bled into our marriage. And it's a really crazy story. Like, it started off, I was cheating on him and eventually he was like, fuck this girl, right? You know, when you're a really good codependent,
Sure.
you stay when you shouldn't. Like you love this person, but you fucking hate what they're doing to you and you don't know how to leave. And that was him. And so he's like, I'll just cheat on her, and that'll get me out of this thing. So he meets this girl, cheats on me, and then I get sober. not that long after. And he's like, oops, I kind of want to know what Sam is like when she's sober. I'm just going to bury this secret. And then we get married. And apparently, you know, when she wrote to me, I was in my old apartment, now fitness studio. I was working with a client. I check my email and I see this whole thing pop up. And the first thing she wrote was, I know you told me to leave you alone, but you have to help me get rid of him. So I have no idea what she's talking about. And then she sends just a storybook of their lives together, pictures, receipts, I love you exchanges, right? And I'm like, what the fuck did you do? What is she talking about that I told her to leave us alone? And it turns out when we were engaged, we had moved to LA, planning our wedding. We were living in this apartment. And I am not tech savvy. I'm much more now than I was then. He's tech savvy. I had a flood of emails from somebody named Elizabeth Cruz. Hi, Elizabeth, if you're watching. And it said no subject in the headline. Now imagine if it had said,
Sure.
I'm your husband's mistress. The whole course of my life would be different. But it didn't. It said no subject. And there was like 20 of these in a row. And I didn't open any of them. And I said, I think I have a virus on my computer. Can you come check? Straight up naive, thought it was a virus.
Oh my God.
He comes and checks and he goes, it's definitely a virus. Do not open that. I'll take care of it. I find out in that moment, he calls his best friend who knew about the affair and said, what the fuck should I do right now? I'm fucked.
Oh my God.
And he's like, you have to write her back as if you're Sam. That's the only way she'll go away. So he pretended it was me. Mm-hmm. We're working on our marriage. I know about the two of you. Please leave us alone. And she went away for a little bit. We get married. Our marriage starts falling apart. I'm kicking and screaming. I don't have God. I'm flipping out, right? And I'm not blaming myself. He is fully fucking responsible for doing this. But I was no piece of cake at this time, right? I was stompy and angry and demanding. And he reached out to her in a moment of weakness. And that was the beginning of the end, because she was like, I just want you to know, if you end this with me, I will tell Sam everything. Good luck. And so he felt trapped, blackmailed, insane. And that is why he was going crazy. And that is why by the time I did my work and I looked in his eyes, I was like, this is nothing to do with me. This is fucking you. And so I did what a scorned wife would do. I took his shit and I threw it out. I said, fuck you into perpetuity. You fucking move out, right? So here I am living in this 3-bedroom place that's way too expensive for what I can afford, and also tainted with all these memories, because it's where we lived when we were fighting. And now I'm picturing him, you know, going on the trip and then coming back into the bed. And I'm like, I don't want to be in here. And he was also coming around and memorializing our lives and not respecting boundaries. So I was like, fuck it. I'm so good at moving. I'm like a professional mover. I'm just going to move. I get an apartment and I just get ready to file for divorce. And I'm like having sex with everyone and it's glorious. And I'm in my early 30s and I'm like, totally thought you'd be the father of my kids, but it's all good. Like if I want kids, I'll have them. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know with who, but I trust now that I'll be fine. And about 8 months into that process, now, of course, he was going to therapy and he was going to Al-Anon and he was doing all the work now that he had lost everything. And my intuition was like, are you sure you're done? And all those little parts of me were like, are you fucking kidding me? And she was like, if you're done, be done. Like, I love and support you. You have fought the good fight. But if you're not, and if there is a possibility that you could have a happy life with this man on the other side of this mess, you might need to stay. Just a loving suggestion. That's always how she showed up. Clear, calm, curious, and compassionate. And I was like, God damn it. Because I wasn't going to ignore her again. Mm-hmm. I made a promise to myself once I heard the sound of her voice that I would never, ever abandon her again. So I had to sit with that. And you talk about hope, Hopeaholics, right? Mm-hmm. Every time I meditated on what to do, it was like, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, looking into the New York City subway system, waiting for the train to come, and it's pitch black. And then finally, you see the light on the front of the train coming. That was the image every single time. And I couldn't help but think, there is a tiny flicker of hope. And it's been 11 years since then.
Wow.
And we have 2 kids. And it's the same guy. Yeah.
When she started the story, I thought she was going to have married a different guy.
Ha! Yeah. Everybody wants to know how that story ends. It's pretty remarkable.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, and the depth of, remember, I had made amends to myself prior to this, right? So I had a template for forgiveness,
Sure.
which was brilliant. But God damn it, it was fucking scary and painful. And, you know, the work that if someone had told me, by the way, it's going to be like 5+ years before you truly thaw out.
Yeah.
And sexually, you can feel safe and liberated with this man again.
Yeah.
I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't have stayed. I'm
sure.
glad I didn't know.
I'm well, good for you. Good for
Yeah, it's
you.
amazing.
Because that's not a story that you normally hear.
No.
Yep.
It's also not a story that I don't know. You know, some therapists think can't happen, but that's a beautiful story
It
to
is
me.
beautiful.
You know, because hurt people hurt people.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And you know, we as human beings can learn from our mistakes. Nobody knows people don't know the depths of your trauma
Right.
from childhood and forward, and we don't know the depths of his. And it's not our job as human beings to judge that. It is the job of a power greater than ourselves. And good for you for finding your intuition, listening to your intuition, and trusting it, and being able to openly talk about it on a podcast
Oh, yeah.
that you know that he's going to listen to.
Well,
Yep.
it's good on both of you because you both obviously, in my eyes, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming because you said 11 years later, it's like, yeah, that's a testament to two individuals hanging in there and both equally doing the amount of work that is required within themselves so that they can then become one.
Exactly. There's so much pride in sharing that
Fuck yeah.
story. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, resilient.
Oh.
Resilient.
Yeah.
Like, that's
You know, and here
amazing.
there's a part there's going to be a group of people that are going to they're going to hear this, and they're going to be like, wait till the shoe drops, because once a cheater, always a cheater.
Yeah, but that equally said for both of them. They both were unfaithful to each other.
Yep.
So it's like, okay.
Here's the thing, here's the way I was able to see it, right? As I'm in all this pain
Yeah.
and devastation, right? My highest self could zoom out and watch. And instead of just looking, which is where everyone was looking,
Yeah.
at the time I moved to California when I was sober and the shit show of my marriage, which would have made it so easy to say, you're not fucking taking him back, right? I was able to look at the whole arc of this story. So we were two young, stupid kids, totally unhealed, the perfect storm, who are madly in love. I cheat. I lie. I have all this trauma.
And that's
I'm
part of the
covering up,
disease,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And here I am, sober, a woman of dignity and grace. Totally different.
Yeah.
Is it possible, if I think he's a chronic cheater who's going to stay sick and doesn't want to heal at the deepest level,
Yeah.
that's one thing. But if I don't think that's true for him, and he too is just like me, and with the right tools, can seemingly recover from a hopeless state, could you be happy? And the answer was yes. Right? There's no lying to myself. There's no, if he cheats or I cheat, we will cross that bridge when we get there. There's not a bone in my body that believed and rolled the dice on, he's a cheater, but he probably won't cheat anymore. No, I just didn't believe that was true.
Right.
There wasn't any evidence, miraculously, that made that true to me. And who the fuck am I to judge,
Totally.
right?
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. And
Yeah,
your
you have
book.
one hell of a story. I can't wait to actually dive into this bad boy. Wait, but anybody can get this right now, right? It's out Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon. I also did the audiobook too, and it's
Ooh,
my voice,
nice.
so that's a whole different experience.
See, I always
See, that'll be an experience that I might enjoy on the Stairmaster.
no, totally.
Is that what they're called
Yes.
Yeah.
Stairmaster?
Yeah. I like it when audiobooks are actually like the author's voice
Yeah.
for some reason.
Oh, I can't stand it when it's not.
Me too.
It's terrible.
I
when
mean,
it's
Jack
not.
Carr's series is really bomb, and he's not the one reading it, but
It's got to be the author for
No,
me.
this is way too personal.
It's got
Yeah.
It
to
was-
be the author for me because
was
they can't
no
they can't
way.
read it the same.
Yeah.
It depends on the book, though, because now that I'm thinking about it, I love series, but these ones that are like depth about individual like life,
Yeah.
I feel like
It's got to be the author
Yeah.
telling their
'Cause,
story.
like, Cam Haines is
their-
himself.
Yeah, Cam Haines. I've
Yeah.
listened to. I haven't
So that
listened
makes
to his
sense to
new
me.
book yet, but his last one was really good. All right, we got to go because you and I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
have appointment.
thank you so much and congratulations on just the evolution and the constant drive to feel better, be better, and then now serve.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
I'm ready.